All right, Nick, let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals have really been focusing on a certain position group in free agency. They've made a few really savvy moves. And I think Joe Burrow is going to be very excited, along with the Bengals fans, in the direction that the Bengals are moving.
Yeah, you're 100% right, Miles. The Bengals have done a great job addressing a key position of need, a position that's held them back the past few years. But before we get into that, Bengals fans, we want to hear from you guys, as always, in the comment section below. Obviously, the Bengals made one key addition. Everyone's aware of it at this point. But give us another move, another addition that the Bengals have made this offseason, or maybe a subtraction, a guy they got rid of, that you think is a really smart move that the Bengals did. And let us know what that move was in the comment section below. All right, Miles, give me your thoughts on what you got coming out of Cincinnati.
Yeah, Nick, I think first we need to address a lot of Bengals fans kind of panicked early on
Hmm.
when both of their safeties left in free agency. But I think the defense overall has been fine, and that was made clear and obvious when the Bengals kind of did not focus on that going into the first part of free agency. Could be addressed later, but their first and foremost thing to address was the offensive line. It had to get good. They had to move off a couple guys and, really just bolster it as a whole. And they did that in spades, especially everybody knows they have signed Orlando Brown, but they signed him to a really savvy deal as well, Nick. 4 years, $64.092 million per year, $31 million signing bonus. Is pretty good money for a left tackle. Yes, he's going to be playing left tackle in case you didn't know, but everybody knew that. They're going to move off of Jonah Williams. Potentially, he's going to flip to the right tackle position. But, Nick, they also got a guard in Cody Ford to a 1-year deal. Some depth there. Or if Cordell Volson maybe isn't working out particularly well, they can battle for that position there. But I think he did admirably last year. What do you think so far of the Bengals targeting of the offensive line and going all out to protect Joe Burrow?
So the whole thing with Orlando Brown, I think that's a steal of the offseason because this is the guy, in my opinion, was the number one tackle that was available in free agency. I know some people like McGlinchey. I thought Orlando Brown's a better football player. McGlinchey was maybe a better run blocker, but in today's day in the NFL, it's more important to be a better pass protector, especially when you have a quality quarterback or you're trying to draft a quality quarterback, which is pretty much every single team in the NFL. That's why I like Orlando Brown. I thought he was going to fetch a pretty penny. I thought that's one of the reasons why I didn't work out with him in the Chiefs, because he wanted a monster deal. The Chiefs were not willing to give it to him. They wanted to tag him. So I was thinking, okay, whoever he's going to go to, they're going to have to be someone who can pay them just gobs of money. I thought the Bears would be an option because the Bears have all that cap space. But somehow, Miles, the Bengals got him for that 4-year, $64 million deal that you alluded to. That's $16 million a year if you do the math correctly. Where does that stand ranking in terms of annual at left tackle? Just left tackle. That is the number 10, number 11 highest average per year contract. That is a scary good value for the best guy in free agency. Because normally what happens anytime a guy enters free agency who's a quality player at that position, he resets the market, right? Every year that happens, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, they get their big deals. They reset the market. Quarterbacks, when they get their big deals, they reset the market. Every free agency period, it sets a new record for the position. Yet Orlando Brown, either the 1 or the number 2 guy available at his position, didn't reset the market. In fact, they got him at the number 10 slot. That is staggeringly good. And I think to me, Miles, when I look at that, that's the Joe Burrow effect. That's sort of like the Pied Piper. Hey, I want to play with the Bengals. I want to protect Joe Burrow. I want to play with Burrow because I really like the direction this team is going, talking about from Orlando Brown's perspective. So you got to love that matchup, right? You got the Bengals who are able to get a guy to come in for that cheap who is that good. And you get a guy in Orlando Brown who wants to play for that cheap just to be part of the Bengals organization and namely to play with Joe Burrow. I think this shows that the Bengals, a lot of people were worried after the offseason, when the offseason began, like you said, they lose their DBs. How are they going to keep everybody in the fold? The fact that the Bengals got Orlando Brown for cheap, Mice, is a sign they may be able to get some of these other guys for cheap. Jamar Chase may sign a cheap deal. Higgins may sign a cheap deal. Who knows how it's going to shake out? But the fact that Orlando Brown came in at the price he did is a great sign for the Bengals going forward.
Yeah, Nick, and if we've watched the Bengals the last couple of years, everyone knows they're on the precipice of winning that Super Bowl. Heck, they even went to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, they did not win. But I think Orlando Brown knows that as well. And I don't think he's doing it for the money. I think he's doing it for the talent, as you said. He wants to play with these players because he was on the Chiefs. He just won a Super Bowl. He could have stayed there and maybe signed for a smaller deal to try to, chase another ring. But I think he, as well as everybody knows, the Bengals are right there and maybe one good left tackle away from Joe Burrow playing his best ball and potentially pushing them over the edge to get to that Super Bowl. But another key thing about Brown that I really like is his consistency, Nick. he's had some of the most consistent play, especially in his PFF grading for the last 5 years. It's between like a 75, 73, and a 77 every
Mm.
single season for the last 4 years straight. He has been extremely consistent. His play has not dropped at all, and he has just been a stalwart, whether he was in Baltimore, whether he was in Kansas City. He has always been very, very impressive at what he does, and bringing this talent to the Bengals kind of is the ending of the 2 year process they did to kind of develop this offensive line. Obviously, last year they went out, they got Karras, they got Kappa, they got Collins, they got Volson in the draft. Now they signed Cody Ford, they get Orlando Brown Jr. I think the transformation of this offensive line and the investment into it is complete now, because it seems like they have solid guys at every single position.
And so I'm going to leave you with this. Let's give some credit to this ownership staff. We talked about earlier this offseason, the investments this ownership group is making in the Bengals, right? Whether it's the indoor practice bubble that took them a few years, the strength and conditioning room. Most of the dollars of this contract, about half, I think you said $31 million, is fully guaranteed signing bonus money to Orlando Brown up front. So that's a credit to the ownership group willing to write today or yesterday, whenever the deal got officially inked, a $31 million check. So credit to the Bengals ownership group to willing to write that check, and credit to Orlando Brown to wanting to take a little bit of pay cut annually to play with the Bengals, because right now it looks like the things are just aligning perfectly for the Bengals to, like you said, get over that final hump and make another run at the Super Bowl.